You'd think stumbling upon $30,000 in a trash bin would feel like winning the lottery. But for Marisol Reyes, an immigrant single mother working 2 jobs, it felt more like a test. She was returning from her 3rd shift at the neighborhood convenience store when she ducked into the alley behind the building to toss empty coffee cups and plastic wrappers into the recycling bin. Under the yellow street lamp, cardboard boxes lay discarded beside overflowing dumpsters. The dull hum of the late-night street was punctuated only by her scuffed sneakers against cracked pavement. Then her heel caught on something. Instinctively, she nudged the cardboard with her foot, just enough to tip it over. Inside was a black duffel bag, its zipper tightly fastened. Her breath caught for a moment before she slipped a tentative finger under the seam and tugged. The bag fell open, spilling neat stacks of bills onto the wet ground. Marisol's pulse thundered as she knelt to straighten the piles. 3 bundles, each wrapped in crisp bands, indicating $100 bills. 300 bills in each stack, 3 stacks. 300 times 300 equals 30. $1,000. Not a single note bore the discoloration of dye packets or the telltale smell of recent bank withdrawal. Her first thought was fear. What if police cameras had recorded this? What if someone dangerous would return looking for their money? But that terror was quickly overshadowed by guilt. She pictured the terrified face of the person who'd lost that life-changing sum. Someone's rent, someone's tuition, someone's medical procedure. Gone. Under the flicker of the street lamp, the weight of moral choice settled on her shoulders, heavier than the bag itself. She paused, eyes sweeping the silent alley. No witnesses, no guard, no security cameras directed at that precise dumpster. A city that never sleeps had fallen momentarily into hush. Marisol inhaled deeply, pushed dark curls from her eyes, and decided she would report it. Within minutes, she dialed her friend Diego, the director of the after-school art program, where her 8-year-old daughter painted vibrant murals on recycled wood panels. His sleepy greeting turned to groggy. Alarm when she whispered, "Diego, I found $30,000. He asked if she'd been robbed. She replied, "No, but I'm about to do the right thing." By dawn, she sat at her kitchen table, the duffel bag zipped closed beside a half-empty mug of instant coffee. She typed a brief email to City Hall's Lost and Found department. "I found unclaimed cash last night in an alley behind the Main Street convenience store. I'll drop it off at 9 a.m. Some grateful person may be searching for this." She left out her address and phone number, fearing media calls or greedy claimants. She clicked send, then closed her laptop. News outlets stirred the instant the dip arrived. TV anchors teased dumpster mystery segments for the evening news. Online headlines shouted, "30K found in trash, what will happen next?" Hashtags trended on social media. Nair's dumpster windfall, Nair's finders keepers, Nair's what would you do? Twitter polls split 50-50 over whether someone should return the money or keep it. Comments ranged from praise for honesty to cynical accusations of staged PR stunts. Rather than chase fame, Marisol prepared her daughter's lunch and kissed her sleepy forehead. At 8:45 a.m., she walked the duffel bag across town to City Hall. Handing it to the lost and found clerk, she asked only for a receipt, stamped evidence. The clerk's eyes widened as she counted the stacks under fluorescent glare. The envelope passed through security and red tape before landing on a supervisor's desk. Marisol declined requests for her statement to be public. She simply wanted the money held securely. By lunchtime, rumors swelled that City Hall would keep the cash if unclaimed after 30 days, funneling it into general funds. Civic tech bloggers mused about whether unclaimed property should finance public services. Politicians drafted press releases praising the anonymous finder's integrity, if only her identity could be confirmed. London-based fintech startups mentioned blockchain as a solution for lost property tracking. Amid all the speculation, Marisol remained invisible. That afternoon, Diego met her at the community garden, an oasis of raised beds and jasmine vines behind the school. He wore paint-splattered jeans and carried 2 coconut-shaped drinks. She sat on a weathered bench, the bag long out of sight. "You were right to return it," Diego said, handing her a straw. "But now what?" Marisol looked at the green, shoots pushing through soil. "This money could help so many people like me," she said. "Immigrants trying to start small businesses, families paying steep medical costs, students who need supplies." She outlined an idea. Request that unclaimed funds, once the 30-day holding period ended, be directed to a micro-grant program supporting immigrant entrepreneurs. Small awards of $2,000 to $5,000 each, paired with free legal and financial advising, all administered by the community organizations people trusted. Diego's eyes lit up. "We could pilot it right here," he said. "Use the garden's co-op kitchen for workshops. Bring in local lawyers, bankers, successful small business owners." They sketched a rough plan on a scrap of notebook paper. Names, budgets, timelines. By dusk, a 6-point charter sat under Marisol's handwriting. Meanwhile, City Hall's legal department discovered that nearly $50,000 in unclaimed property remained from the previous year. Money no one had claimed from lost. Bank accounts or unredeemed safe deposit boxes. Under state law, those funds would implicitly revert to city coffers if unclaimed. But Marisol's proposal offered a mechanism to keep the money in community circulation, amplifying the impact of lost property. That evening, she drafted a succinct email to the mayor's office. Subject: proposal for community microgrants funded by unclaimed property. She attached the 6-point charter and requested a meeting to discuss redirecting unclaimed funds to the new program. She clicked send, paused to steady her heartbeat, then closed her laptop once more. Soon after, the mayor's press secretary replied, requesting a briefing. Within 24 hours, Marisol found herself in a conference room with city officials, advocacy group representatives, and an expectant press gallery, though she insisted on anonymity. The afternoon sun slanted through tall windows as she presented her plan. A transparent grant application process, community-led selection panels, mandatory mentorship sessions, all to ensure the money achieved maximum social benefit. The officials nodded, scribbling notes. One council member piped up, "This could be a national model for unclaimed property reform." A community liaison added, "It honors both the finder's integrity and the public good." Marisol held her breath as the room discussed budget allocations. By the end of the meeting, they agreed to draft an ordinance. Back at home, she hugged her daughter before bedtime and whispered, "You're going to help me change our city." Her daughter yawned and nodded, trusting her mother's word. This was no longer just a story about $30,000 in a dumpster. It was the beginning of something larger, a community reclaiming its own potential, guided by the honesty of one brave woman. If you believe in integrity rewarding entire neighborhoods, hit like now. Subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss Chapter 2, where pushback from skeptics and red tape hurdles emerge, and see how Marisol fights to turn lost cash into living opportunity. Comment Grantha below. If you're ready to watch unclaimed funds become a catalyst for real change, stay tuned. This journey is just getting started. The morning after Marisol's proposal meeting, City Hall corridors felt different, hushed with possibility, yet thick with protocol. Her 6-point charter, once scribbled on a scrap of paper, now lived in official memos stamped in triplicate. At 9 a.m., Marisol arrived at the Municipal Law Library for a follow-up briefing, flanked by Diego and 2 community advocates. Floor-to-ceiling shelves groaned under legal tomes. A projection screen flickered to life with an ordinance draft, labeled Unclaimed Funds Microgrant Program. The city attorney began reading aloud, Section 1, Definitions, Section 2, Eligibility Criteria, Section 3, Application process. Marisol counted each whereas clause under her breath. She pictured young entrepreneurs standing in line to apply for grants rather than crowded into libraries to decipher bylaws. By mid-morning, debate centered on eligibility. One deputy argued grants must be limited to existing non-profits for accountability, effectively excluding individual applicants like Marisol herself. A finance director fretted over auditing requirements, insisting on quarterly financial reports and notarized receipts, an expensive burden for applicants who might lack legal budgets. A council aide pointed out that state statutes required a 30-day notice to potential properties owners before diverting unclaimed funds or risk litigation. Marisol took a breath. When her turn came, she rose and spoke clearly. I understand the need for oversight, but our goal is to lower barriers, not raise them. Requiring applicants to hire attorneys or secure non-profit status defeats the purpose of micro-grants. We're talking about seed capital, $5,000 spent not on payroll for PR firms, but on ingredients for a catering startup, a deposit for a home care license, materials for a bicycle repair shop. Let's trust community partners, like Diego's Co-op Kitchen, like the Neighborhood Development Council, to vet applications rather than defaulting to expensive audits. Her words echoed against oak paneling. The city attorney nodded, the finance director jotted notes, and one council aide typed furiously. In parallel, the Lost and Found department circulated internal guidelines to staff. How to bundle unclaimed cash, how to log it into the funds pool, how to transfer sums to the new microgrant account. A misprint sent $300 to a Grantha fund instead of unclaimed grants. By afternoon, someone noticed the error and reversed it, an early reminder that every dollar here carried more weight than usual. Meanwhile, the mayor's office faced its own storm. Leaked minutes from a strategy meeting circulated on social media. A group of high-level donors worried that redirecting unclaimed funds to grassroots programs might undercut larger donor-driven capital projects. A finance memo labeled potential revenue loss estimated that unclaimed property had historically padded the general fund by over $500,000 annually. Blogs exploded with headlines. City risks budget shortfall for small business pet projects. Marisol watched the uproar online. She knew inertia would be a greater enemy than outright opposition. Weeks earlier, she had stumbled onto cash by accident. Now she was wading into bureaucratic currents powerful enough to drown even the best ideas. She logged into her email and drafted a public letter. Unclaimed property did not belong to City Hall. It belonged to our community. Kids who need after-school meals, families who deferred rent, mothers who skipped doctor visits. This program is not charity. It's justice applied to assets forgotten. I invite all stakeholders, business leaders, non-profit directors, everyday residents, to join a community review council to shape final guidelines. She hit send. That evening, a virtual town hall launched on the city's civic engagement portal. Hundreds of residents logged in. Chat messages scrolled by in a blur. Marisol and Diego co-hosted, fielding questions about grant size, selection, criteria, reporting processes. A retiree asked if the program would favor neighborhoods that already boasted strong non-profits. A college student wondered how someone without a permanent address could apply. A local developer pressed on milestones and performance metrics. Each question illuminated a new bureaucratic wrinkle. The city planner acknowledged the need to simplify the portal's interface. The grants manager proposed mobile application workshops for hard-to-reach populations. A tech volunteer offered to integrate an SMS-based application alternative. Midnight, the program draft had grown from 6 points to 12, each annotated with community feedback, each balancing accountability with accessibility. However, not all feedback was constructive. Troll accounts demanded that Marisol's identity be revealed for transparency, threatening to collect personal data to verify her motives. Other voices accused her of grandstanding, a convenient publicity stunt to mask her own failing small business aspirations. Online harassment intensified, but private messages of support poured in faster. Heart emoji replies from parents whose kids attended Diego's program. Grateful thanks from healthcare workers who saw potential clinics funded by microgrants, and offers from local chambers of commerce to host informational booths at upcoming street fairs. 2 weeks later, the program ordinance, now renamed the Community Opportunity Fund, reached the City Council floor for first reading. Marisol and Diego sat in the public gallery behind community allies. The council president read the summary: an annual allocation of up to $300,000 from unclaimed property to fund micro-grants between $2,000 and $5,000 for community-driven entrepreneurial projects. Application review by a community advisory panel comprising residents, service providers, and subject matter experts. Reports to be published quarterly on an open data platform. Council members rose to debate. Some praised the innovation, likening it to seed-funding neighborhoods. Others questioned the precedent of using lost assets for targeted grants instead of general revenue. One veteran councillor cautioned against fragmentation of funds, arguing that small disbursements risked diluting impact. Champions countered, "We're not talking about seed packets. We're talking about planting orchards. Each microgrant will yield jobs, services, and community cohesion. Small dollars can grow into self-sustaining enterprises." When the first reading concluded, the ordinance was tabled for revisions. Standard procedure, yet a victory in itself. The council president announced a public comment period and encouraged stakeholders to submit written feedback over the next 10 days. Marisol exhaled, feeling momentum shift back in her favor. That night, back in her modest apartment, she opened a fresh document and began drafting guidance for the community advisory panel. Criteria for panel membership, conflict of interest, disclosures, term lengths, and a code of conduct emphasizing empathy and impartiality. She slipped in quotes from her daughter's journal about homes that bloom from hope and her own brainstorm notes on granting more than money, granting opportunity. Before sleep claimed her, she reviewed the week's progress. A draft, ordinance, a public town hall, an expanding community advisory framework, and the naming of her program inspiring media stories about a city rebuilding itself from forgotten assets. But she also recognized the hurdles ahead: legal fine print, budget negotiations, resistance from entrenched interests, and the personal toll of public scrutiny. She closed her laptop with a gentle click and whispered to her daughter's stuffed rabbit perched on the bedside shelf, "Tomorrow we make it simpler for someone else to believe they can do what's right." By the time the City Council scheduled the second reading of the Community Opportunity Fund Ordinance, Marisol Reyes had become a familiar name in municipal circles, albeit still officially anonymous to the public. Behind the scenes, her greatest urgency was staffing the Community Advisory Panel, CAPI, she had proposed, a diverse group empowered to review grant applications, monitor fund disbursement, and elevate grassroots voices. Morning briefing at the Nonprofit Hub. At 8:30 a.m., Marisol met with Diego and 2 community advocates in a converted loft serving as the city's nonprofit incubator. Whiteboards lined one wall, covered with sticky notes bearing names of prospective panelists, immigrant entrepreneurs, youth leaders, financial mentors, small business owners, legal aid attorneys, and neighborhood association chairs. The task was daunting: ensure representation across income, language, and cultural lines while avoiding conflicts of interest. They agreed on key criteria: Panelists must live or work in the city, have demonstrated community service, and commit to a rolling 2-year term. Applications would open within days, publicized in 5 languages. Diego volunteered the co-op kitchen as a venue for in-person interviews with candidates unable to access online forms. By noon, the CAP nomination process was live on the city's open data portal and text message hotlines. Backlash and bureaucracy collide. Yet not everyone celebrated. That afternoon, a coalition of established non-profits, some fearing competition, petitioned for stricter eligibility checks, warning that inexperienced panelists could jeopardize fiduciary oversight. The mayor's chief of staff forwarded their memo to Marisol, requesting her input. She replied respectfully, "I welcome institutional expertise on best practices, but the spirit of this fund is to decentralize power. Our goal is to blend lived experience with professional skills, not to replace one elite with another." Meanwhile, the city's legal counsel flagged concerns over open meeting laws. Every CAP deliberation would require public notice, agendas, and minutes, potentially, hampering timely decisions. Marisol convened a working group with the city clerk's office to draft a streamlined protocol. Emergency subcommittee meetings allowed under quorum rules, digital notice via SMS and email, and summary minutes published within 48 hours. This compromise balanced transparency with agility. The first applicants. Within a week, the CAP nomination portal listed 125 candidates. On a rainy Saturday morning, Marisol and Diego co-hosted a drop-in information session at the co-op kitchen. Over coffee and pastries, they walked attendees through the role description, conflict of interest disclosures, and time commitments. A single mother of 3, balancing a home-based bakery, asked how childcare would be accommodated. Marisol announced a small stipend for panelists to cover care expenses, funded initially by a private philanthropy match she'd secured. Smiles and relieved nods rippled through the room. That same weekend, 24 microgrant applications arrived, dreams in ink on recycled paper. A former auto shop mechanic wanted $3,500 to reopen his mobile bike repair service. A local seamstress proposed a $2,000 investment in industrial sewing machines to train refugees. A graffiti artist collective sought $4,500 to purchase supplies and lease a workshop. Each proposal carried both hope and vulnerability. First, CAP deliberations. On Monday evening, the newly elected CAP assembled in the Municipal Law Library's meeting room. Marisol opened with a reminder: "We're stewards of opportunity. Each dollar we authorize should spark new economic activity and strengthen the web of our community." She handed out dossiers on the first 10 applicants. As the projector illuminated their photos and budgets, debate unfolded with surprising fervor. Panelist Jorge, a restaurateur, raised questions about the seamstress's business plan. Youth rep Mateo pushed back, arguing for trust in lived expertise over formal training. Tensions surfaced around vetting rigor versus community empowerment. 2 hours later, they reached consensus on a pilot cohort: the bike mechanic, the seamstress, and a pop-up digital media workshop run by a group of high schoolers teaching basic Z coding to seniors. The CAP unanimously recommended disbursing a total of $10,000, far below the full fund, but enough to demonstrate process integrity. The minutes recorded their rationale, potential risks, and success metrics to track. Public reaction. Within 24 hours, local news reported the first grants awarded. Headlines ranged from "Grassroots grants fuel local dreams" to "Handouts" or "Hand up." Debate erupts over city pilot. Social feeds lit up with beneficiary testimonials: a repaired bike carrying children to school, hand-stitched dresses selling out at a weekend market, senior coders building their first websites. Critics decried pennies on the dollar, while champions hailed the symbolic value of trust. Marisol watched both sides, recognizing that perception is as vital as policy. Scaling and second wave. A week later, CAP announced the second grant. Cycle would fund up to 5 projects, raising the ceiling to $25,000 total. Applications surged, and the panel instituted refined scoring rubrics incorporating community impact, sustainability, and mentorship components. Meanwhile, a local credit union volunteered to co-sponsor financial literacy workshops for grant recipients. A tent at the Saturday Farmers Market became a weekly drop-off point for applications and mentor sign-ups. Late-night epiphany. One night at 11 p.m., Marisol sat alone in the apartment she shared with her daughter. She reviewed the CAP's first meeting video, Mateo's enthusiastic pitch, the seamstress explaining her vision, the mechanic's shy gratitude. She realized the program's success hinged not on the money alone, but on the trust it manifested. She typed a quick note to the mayor. "Our CAPI is working, but let's not stop at grants. Let's embed micro-grant language in the city's economic development plan, create a permanent opportunity office, and invite other cities to replicate our model." As her daughter stirred in sleep, Marisol wondered, could a pilot program, born from a dumpster find, become a blueprint for civic renewal nationwide? The sunrise that Monday morning revealed a city transformed by whispered conversations and colorful banners declaring Community Opportunity Fund above farmers' markets, corner cafes, and community centers. The pilot micro-grant program had vaulted from a bold experiment into a beacon of participatory governance. Yet Marisol Reyes understood that the greater the reach, the sharper the fault lines. Today would test whether inclusion could scale, whether the promise of shared opportunity would hold firm under the weight of rapid growth. As the 8:30 a.m. bell rang at Diego's co-op kitchen, a cast of veterans and newcomers had already gathered. Diego himself smoothing out sticky notes on stainless steel tables. Jorge, the restaurateur turned CAP member, tapping his pen anxiously. Kylie, the coder, arms crossed over a stack of technical diagrams. Father Luis, notebook in hand, and 2 newly deputized city liaisons named Elliot and Sunita. The aroma of fresh pastries mingled with urgency. Marisol surveyed the group and laid out the agenda. Expand from 2 to 4 grant cycles per year. Introduce flexible award tiers ranging from $500 to $7,500. And refine evaluation metrics to measure both quantitative outcomes, jobs created, revenue generated, and qualitative impacts, community cohesion, trust built, creative spark ignited. At 8:45, Diego sketched a timeline on the whiteboard. Q1, applications open Jan 1 to 15. Evaluations Jan 16-25. Awards Jan 30. Midterm check-in Mar 15. Final report April 30. Q2, applications April 1-15. Evaluations April 16-25. Awards April 30. Midterm check-in June 15. Final report June 30. Q3 and Q4 would follow suit with adjusted dates. Marisol nodded. More cycles mean more opportunities, she affirmed, but also more administrative lift. We need automation, not bureaucracy. Kylie immediately suggested automating eligibility checks. We can build a script to flag missing fields, validate budget totals, and send real-time prompts. Jorge frowned. We can't lean too heavily on tech. We must preserve space for personal stories. Father Luis agreed. A video pitch requirement, 2 minutes max, can humanize applications without adding undue burden. They settled on a hybrid model, automated form validation combined with mandatory short video pitches or written narratives, whichever the applicant preferred. By 10:01 a.m., the city's tech team had deployed a beta portal. The landing page featured clear instructions, multilingual options, English, Spanish, Mandarin, Arabic, Vietnamese, Somali, Portuguese, and an embedded demo video starring Mateo and Luis, the teenage CAP rep and the kiosk manager who first championed the CCTV transparency. Meanwhile, City Hall's West Wing opened as a paper application hub, staffed by volunteers fluent in local dialects and trained to assist with both digital and physical submissions. Just as momentum reached its zenith, a whisper campaign surfaced online. Activists from neighboring rural districts claimed the program marginalized outskirts. Under the hashtag Rural Left Behind, posts accused the fund of exclusively favoring urban startups, listing dozens of successful city-based projects while rural co-ops remained ineligible. One viral tweet claimed a Ridgewood beekeeper attempted to apply but was told seasonal residency disqualified him. Marisol felt a pit open in her stomach. She convened an emergency video call that night with Ridgewood community leaders. Over pixelated screens, farmers described certificate of residence, rules that required year-round leases, impossible for migratory workers. They asked for alternative IDs, union cards, harvest logs, or letters from local pastors. Marisol listened without interruption, jotting furious notes. The following morning at 7:30 a.m., she arrived at City Hall bearing a revised proposal, a rural outreach pilot, deploying the microgrant caravan, a van equipped with tablets, portable Wi-Fi, printed materials and translation headsets to host pop-up workshops in satellite towns. A residency flex clause, accepting alternative proof of community ties such as union membership, school enrollment records, or utility statements in an immediate family member's name. A rural allocation reserve, dedicating at least 10% of each cycle's total funding to projects originating outside city limits, ensuring intentional inclusion. At 9 a.m., she presented the addendum to the mayor in the Oval Conference Room. The mayor, reviewing the text beneath brass-frame city seals, paused and then signed, saying, "Let's bring opportunity to every doorstep, not just every zip code." City Communications drafted a press release within the hour. Local news anchors pivoted from criticism to celebration, airing sound bites of Ridgewood residents cheering through phone lines. Later that afternoon, Marisol and Diego loaded the first microgrant caravan leg bound for Ridgewood. They packed the van with Wi-Fi hotspots, face masks, water bottles, clipboards and pastries, donated by neighborhood bakeries. Volunteers from the local community center carried folding chairs and tables. Diego handed Marisol a final briefing. "Remember, this isn't a one-off event, it's a rolling demonstration of equity." As they drove north under pastel skies, Marisol reflected on the journey from that first dumpster discovery. Both began in shadow, one an overlooked box, the other overlooked communities. Now they converged on a frontier of possibility where shared assets could ignite self-determination across every street. That evening in Ridgewood's town hall, a repurposed barn with creaky floorboards and community murals, Marisol opened with gratitude. She explained the revised guidelines, emphasized the rural reserve, and introduced application assistance. A farmer asked if the video pitch could be replaced by a handwritten narrative. She assured him it could. A student translator offered to caption videos for hearing-impaired applicants. They scheduled workshops across 7 neighboring towns over the next 2 weeks. As midnight approached and volunteers packed away supplies, Marisol tucked herself into the caravan seat. Through the tinted window, she saw folding chairs stacked like sleeping dominoes. Diego, driving miles ahead, hummed a familiar lullaby. She pulled out her journal and wrote, "Inclusion is not a destination, but a journey of return, bringing resources home to places forgotten." After closing her notebook, she stared at the moonlit road, knowing that tomorrow's workshop would be the true measure of whether bridges had been built or simply illuminated. The first rays of dawn found the micro-grant caravan parked beneath the weathered eaves of Ridgewood's barn-style town hall. Frost lingered on the roof. Inside, hay bales sat alongside folding tables draped with bright blue tablecloths bearing the Community Opportunity Fund logo. Marisol Reyes stepped out of the van, her breath visible in the crisp air. She was greeted by a cluster of volunteers, local farmers, teachers, and high school students, armed with clipboards, hot coffee, and word-of-mouth excitement. She surveyed the scene. A line of folding chairs, a makeshift registration desk, a projector and screen set up on a hay bale. A banner overhead read, "Welcome to the Rural Outreach Pilot." Diego moved briskly between tables, confirming that tablets were fully charged and Wi-Fi hotspots were broadcasting. A few residents milled around, curious but cautious, some carrying old driver's licenses, others holding harvest logs or church membership cards as alternative IDs. At 8:30 a.m., Marisol tapped the microphone. The barn fell silent. "Good morning, Ridgewood," she began. "I'm Marisol Reyes, and I'm here because our city believes that opportunity shouldn't be confined by zip code. Today, you can apply for grants from $1,500 to $7,500. No expensive nonprofit status or months of paperwork required. If you have a vision for a small business or social project that serves this community, we want to help make it real." A ripple of applause rose. Old Mr. Thompson, the beekeeper whose loss of hive funding sparked the rural left-behind conversation, stood at the front. He raised a hand. "Do we have to do the video pitch?" he asked. Marisol nodded. "You can record a 2-minute audio-only pitch instead, or submit a written narrative of up to 300 words. We'll accept the format that suits you best." Relief washed over Mr. Thompson's face. His grandson, a local student, volunteered to record the audio later. Registration and assistance. Over the next hour, applicants streamed in. A single mother with a home-based bakery applied for $10,500 to purchase a convection oven. A small-town barbershop owner requested $3,000 to upgrade outdated clippers and offer discounted pay-what-you-can haircuts for seniors. A retired school teacher sought $1,500 to launch free after-school literacy workshops in the community center. Each form was reviewed on the spot by volunteer translators and CAP appointees. For Ridgewood, a retired mayor served, alongside 2 community college students and a local faith leader. The process unfolded smoothly. Tablets beeped with successful submissions. Paper forms were collected in a clear plastic ballot box, so applicants could witness each form being secured. Applicants left clutching receipt numbers and workshop schedules for video pitch training, all while local radio broadcast live updates to listeners unable to attend in person. Video pitch workshops. At 11 a.m., Marisol joined a breakout session. In a side room, one long table surrounded by 4 carpenters, 2 farmhands, and a cafe owner. Kylie Tran's intern from the city's tech office demonstrated the user interface. "Just hit record, speak clearly, and share your passion," the intern said. "If you make a mistake, hit stop and start over. You have up to 2 minutes." Corn farmer named Rosa stepped up, nervously adjusting her straw hat. She cleared her throat and recited her pitch. "Hi, I'm Rosa Martinez, and I've been growing corn on my family's land for 20 years. I want to start a small roadside stand to sell fresh produce and teach kids about farming. This grant will buy a refrigerated display case and set up a wheelchair-accessible ramp so everyone can enjoy our harvest." Her voice cracked at first, then steadied. She hit stop at 1:45. Smiles and applause greeted her. The intern uploaded her video. Lunchtime reflections. At noon, a simple picnic of sandwiches and homemade pies materialized, courtesy of Ridgewood volunteers. Marisol sat at a picnic table with Mr. Thompson and the retired schoolteacher, Mrs. Patel. They spoke candidly about life in the countryside. Slow internet, volunteer fire departments always on call, community resilience in the face of droughts, and market volatility. Mrs. Patel applauded the residency flex allowance. Many of my students come from migrant families. They stay in town only 3 months a year. They'd never meet the old lease requirements. Marisol nodded. Our goal is not just to fund projects, but to build trust. When people see the city prioritizing rural needs, they'll engage more, vote more, volunteer more, share more. Afternoon hurdles. Just after 1 p.m., grim news arrived. One of the tablets crashed, erasing 20 video pictures. Panic fluttered. Diego sprang into action. He rebooted the device, recovered as many files as possible, and arranged backups on 2 separate cloud drives. In parallel, volunteers printed paper backup forms for video pitch summaries. Applicants could scribble a quick transcript. By 2 p.m., the system was operational again, and no applicant lost their chance. Unexpected partnerships. By 3:30 p.m., the local credit union manager strolled in, having driven 50 miles on her own time. She pledged to waive processing fees for any microloan recipients who needed credit beyond grant awards. She also offered free financial literacy classes for applicants whose ventures required business bank accounts. Her announcement earned enthusiastic cheers and a dozen new sign-ups in 10 minutes. Closing remarks. As the workshop wound down at 5 p.m., Marisol addressed the group once more. Today was our first test of inclusion. Urban design meeting, rural reality. We learned about network outages and identity documents, about storytelling courage and community pride. Your feedback will refine our process for the next cycle. This pilot caravan will return in 3 months to check on progress and accept new applications. She scanned the room. Hopeful eyes, relieved smiles, determined nods. She whispered to herself, "This is why we returned $30,000 to unlock stories like yours." Evening debrief. That night, back in the barn's empty hall, Marisol and Diego tallied preliminary numbers: 82 completed applications, 57 video pitches, 34 rural reserve submissions, and a wait list of 20 excited applicants who needed one-on-one tech support. They sent an immediate update to the CAP via secure chat. Rural pilot success, data and stories incoming, quiet victory. In her journal entry that night, Marisol wrote, "In a town of 10,000 residents, 82 voices rose today. Each pitch was a testament to hope. The challenges, tech glitches, identity hurdles only underscored the need for flexibility. We're learning that bridges are built one handshake, one story, one workshop at a time." When the sun peeked over the barns of Ridgewood the morning after the workshop, the town hall's bulletin board bore a colourful announcement. Community Opportunity Fund Awards revealed. Join us at 10 a.m. Word spread by text chains and radio spots. Applicants arrived clutching printed confirmations, video pitch links queued for playback, and hearts full of anticipation. Marisol Reyes slipped into the barn before dawn to review final recommendations from the Community Advisory Panel, KP, her nerves humming as loudly as the old heater that kept the hall from freezing. CAP's deliberation recap inside the council. Backroom, formerly a hayloft, CAP members convened at 7:30 a.m. under low-hanging lanterns. They replayed candidate videos, pored over written narratives, and tallied scores against impact rubrics co-created in earlier sessions. Metrics included feasibility, community benefit, replicability, and passion-imbued storytelling. To honor the Rural Reserve commitment, at least 8 of the 20 total awards would go to Ridgewood applicants. The rest would be reserved for urban submissions arriving via the digital portal. Jamal, the restaurateur, championed the bakery owner's convection oven plan, citing local demand for fresh baked goods at farmers' markets. Kylie, the coder, argued fervently for funding the Senior Coding Initiative, emphasizing intergenerational connection in a region starved for digital literacy. Mateo, the youth rep, passionately backed the high schoolers' pop-up media workshop after seeing how confidently they pitched their vision. The retired mayor lobbied for the barbershop's pay-what-you-can model as a replicable framework for social enterprise. After 2 hours of rigorous debate and one tie broken by Father Luis, CAP finalized 20 grant awards totaling $85,000, 14 rural, 6 urban. Each project allotted between $1,500 and $7,500. Morning of the awards ceremony at 9 a.m. Marisol stood at the center of the barn's main aisle, flanked by CAP members and Diego. A simple stage of hay bale risers held rustic wooden seats for awardees. The mayor arrived with a small entourage, greeted Ridgewood volunteers with warm handshakes, and took her place beside Marisol. A local youth brass ensemble played a spirited fanfare as the crowd gathered. Marisol stepped to the microphone. "Today, we bridge the gap between aspiration and action," she began. 20 projects, each a spark of possibility, will receive micro-grants fueled by unclaimed assets. Let's celebrate not just the money, but the trust it represents. She motioned to the CAP, who applauded. Then the mayor opened a leather-bound folder and read the first name. Ridgewood Pop-Up Media Workshop, $5,000 awarded to Jasmine. Ortiz and the Code and Create High School Collective. The audience erupted in cheers as Jasmine and 3 classmates bounded onto the stage, hugging until their medals clinked. One held a tablet playing their pitch video, the other carried sketches of their planned workshop space. A tapestry of projects. One by one, each award was announced. Fresh Start Bakery, $7,500 to Maria Nguyen, single mother baking gluten-free. Loaves for food-insecure families. Wheels for All, $4,500 to Miguel Santos, the auto shop mechanic who'll refurbish donated bicycles and provide free repairs for low-income seniors. Barber Bonds, $3,000 to Aisha Johnson, expanding her pay-what-you-can barbershop to include hair care workshops for domestic violence survivors. Community Garden Co-op, $5,000 to Ridgewood Agricultural Collective, installing raised beds and irrigation for neighborhood food security. Senior Tech Connect, $10,500 to the Community College Club, offering basic computer classes at the town library. Counseling on Wheels, $7,000 to Pastor Luis Mendoza, retrofitting his van as a mobile mental health outreach unit for rural families. Art on Main, $2,500 to Graffiti Artist Collective Canvas of Hope, creating murals that commemorate Ridgewood's history. Green Energy Coop, $6,000 to Solar Panel Co-op, installing panels on the community center roof and training. Locals in Maintenance. Harvest to Table, $2,000 to Chef Antonio Ramirez, hosting pop-up dinners pairing farm produce with culinary education for youth. Music Makers, and $500 to the Ridgewood Youth Band, purchasing new brass instruments for underfunded school programs, and 10 more projects, each greeted by applause, tears, and snapshots. In total, $85,000 in unclaimed funds would flow directly into the hands and dreams of everyday citizens. Moments of impact. After the last name, Marisol invited recipients to share one sentence on stage. Voices echoed. "This grant means I can scale my bakery to feed my community. I'll teach my grandfather to code so we can build our family website. Now I can travel to remote farms to offer counseling. Our murals will remind young artists that streets can hold beauty." The brass band played a reprise, swelling into a jubilant cadence. Behind the scenes. While the ceremony unfolded, Diego coordinated logistics, scheduling initial disbursement transfers, arranging mentorship matchups, and ensuring each awardee received a packet with grant agreements, reporting deadlines, and contact info for CAP liaisons. He flagged one issue. A solar panel co-op director needed clarification on invoice requirements. Diego paged Kylie to draft a simplified guide. A group of barbers skipped off stage to practice their workshop outline via video call with the credit union's business counselor. Community reactions outside the barn. Journalists interviewed awardees. A local TV reporter asked the mayor if she'd expand the program next year. She smiled and confirmed a plan to increase the annual allocation to $500,000 based on demonstrated success. On social media, hashtags like #Ridgewood Rises, Chug Opportunity Fund Works, and Microgrants Matter trended. Regionally, civic bloggers praised the pilot's rural-urban balance. Critics softened their tone, acknowledging that a $500 arts grant can catalyze economic activity when paired with support networks. Afternoon reflection. By mid-afternoon, Marisol slipped away to a quiet corner of the community garden adjacent to the barn. She sat beneath a cherry tree and scrolled through KP's digital dashboard. Real-time grant tracking, budget burn rates, and preliminary impact surveys from pilot recipients. She noticed an early pattern. Projects with mandatory mentorship. Components reported smoother rollouts and fewer hiccups. She drafted a quick note to the CAP. Recommend codifying mentorship in all future grant tiers. Stories and numbers both point to its value. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Patel, the retired teacher. "Thank you for believing in our town. My literacy workshops start next week." A smile spread across Marisol's face. Evening, and beyond that evening, awardees gathered for a toast in the barn, transformed into a twilight festival, string lights overhead and farmers' tables laden with harvest fruits. Marisol watched roses of gratitude bloom in conversations. Connections between farmer and artist, teacher and coder, pastor and chef, demonstrating the program's ripple effect. Father Luis blessed the gathering with laughter and a prayer for continued collaboration. As stars emerged, Marisol reflected on the journey from dumpster discovery to this moment of collective empowerment. She recognized the truth behind her daughter's bedtime wisdom: homes bloom from hope. In Ridgewood, seeds of opportunity had been sown, waters of trust had irrigated barren fields, and a harvest of possibility glowed under the barn's rafters. When the morning mist lifted from Ridgewood's fields, the barn lantern still glowed faintly, a reminder of last night's celebration. 20 projects, each representing a dream, harnessed by unclaimed funds, awoke that day with new life. But real transformation would depend on sustained support, rigorous follow-through, and the invisible threads connecting mentors, beneficiaries, and communities. Today, the true harvest would begin. Morning check-ins and mentorship pairings. At 8:02 a.m., Marisol convened a virtual huddle with the City Hall Grants Administrator Diego and the fledgling network of volunteer mentors. They dialed in from kitchens, home offices, and co-working spaces, their screens bearing eager faces. A shared digital dashboard displayed grant recipients alongside assigned mentors, financial advisors, veteran entrepreneurs, non-profit leaders, and even high school coding coaches. The system matched each project to 2 mentors, one subject matter expert and one community navigator. For example, Fresh Start Bakery received support from a retired chef and a local accountant. Wheels for All paired with a bicycle industry manager and a social services coordinator. Counseling on Wheels connected to a licensed therapist and a rural healthcare advocate. Marisol reviewed progress flags. Early red flags indicated that Harvest to Table struggled with vendor permits, while Senior Tech Connect reported a surge in demand that threatened to overwhelm volunteer instructors. Diego flagged follow-up actions, schedule a meeting with the Agriculture Office for Harvest to Table, and recruit 3 additional tech mentors for Senior Tech Connect before next week's sessions. Site visits and real-time feedback at 10 a.m. Marisol and Diego set out on a whirlwind tour of Ridgewood, armed with a midterm reporting template and a list of key checkpoints. First stop, Fresh Start Bakery. Maria Nguyen greeted them with the scent of rising dough and a lineup of eager customers buying gluten-free loaves. Maria led them behind the counter, showing the new convection oven in action. The orders logged in a simple spreadsheet Marisol had helped set up, and the preliminary revenue records neatly filed. "I've already hired one part-time assistant, and next week I'm pitching my supplier for bulk discounts," Maria said. A quick look at the dashboard confirmed on-track metrics. Production volume up 40%, payroll begun, and customer satisfaction surveys at 98%. Next, wheels for all workshop. At the old auto shop, Miguel Santos stood over a disassembled bicycle frame, showing off a custom-built rack for seniors who struggled to mount traditional seats. He demonstrated the toolkit purchased with his grant and introduced 2 apprentices, high school students, and from the coding workshop, who were building an online booking system for repair appointments. Diego nodded, noting an opportunity. Integrate digital scheduling with inventory tracking to optimize parts procurement. By noon, they arrived at Ridgewood Community Center, where Senior Tech Connect classes buzzed with chatter. Tablet screens displayed email composition tutorials, slideshow demos, and virtual meeting etiquette. Seniors helped one another troubleshoot login issues, while the community college club mentors circulated. A quick poll revealed 75% of participants felt more confident online. 2/3 had created personal email accounts for the first time. Marisol and Diego offered lunch to volunteers and asked for suggestions. "Could we add a follow-up series on online safety?" The lead instructor agreed and scheduled 3 evening sessions for next week. Midday data dive. Back at the barn, Marisol reviewed aggregated data across all 20 projects. A real-time dashboard showed jobs created, 12 part-time positions, 3 full-time hires, revenue generated, $45,000 gross sales in first month, community events, 8 pop-ups, 5 workshops, 2 exhibitions, participant satisfaction, 92% positive feedback. Mentor, engagement, average of 5 hours per week, she noted patterns. Projects with dual mentorship averaged 30% faster progress. Those integrating tech tools saw wider customer reach. Arts-based initiatives attracted media attention that benefited neighboring ventures. A red flag surfaced for harvest-to-tables licensing delay and counseling on wheels scheduling conflicts in remote areas. Marisol drafted action items, connect harvest to table with the agriculture liaison, and work with the health depth mentor to streamline mobile clinic permits. Afternoon Community Forum. At 3 p.m., over 24 project teams, mentors, city officials and curious residents gathered in the barn's open space for a midterm community forum. Each team had 2 minutes to present successes, challenges, and needs. A giant flip chart recorded real-time bright spots and bottlenecks. Highlights included the bakery's market stall draw, the barbershop's intergenerational haircut, days, and the Solar Coop's volunteer training that won a county sustainability award. Challenges ranged from permit backlogs to supply chain snags. During Q&A, a county planner announced expedited permit processing for demonstration projects. A local bank pledge announced microloan interest rate reductions for grantees. The community garden offered to produce display materials. Corporate sponsor credit union reps signed up for pop-up financial clinics. The collective energy turned hurdles into opportunities, each stakeholder stepping forward to support another's success. Early impact stories. As dusk approached, Marisol retreated to a quiet corner where a small documentary crew from a regional public media station was interviewing Ridgewood pop-up media workshop leader Jasmine Ortiz. Jasmine showed a clip of seniors navigating video software they'd created. They now have channels to share their own stories, she explained. Nearby, young coders celebrated. Some dreamed of launching apps that night. Marisol filmed ambient footage on her phone, children tasting fresh bakery pastries, cyclists riding repaired bikes, villagers gathering for rural bus clinic sessions. These micro-moments, stitched together, formed a tapestry of shared triumphs, evening reflection and future vision. Back home, Marisol penned her journal entry. Today I saw the ripple effect. One woman's honesty uncovered a path for an entire community. These projects are more than businesses. They're vessels of dignity, connection, and transformation. Yet the real impact lies in networks. Mentors investing time, neighbors sharing resources, city departments bending rules for the public good. Our next step is to codify these networks into an enduring ecosystem, an opportunity commons where microgrants, mentorship, policy, and community feedback converge continuously. She drafted an email to the mayor's office proposing a permanent Opportunity Commons body, combining the micro-grant program, CAPE, Mentor Network, and civic tech platforms under one municipal umbrella. She suggested annual impact reports, fellowship programs for alumni grantees, and a traveling Opportunity Labs bus to seed neighboring counties. She clicked send and closed her laptop, confident that rustling through trash had ignited something far more enduring than money. Alone,